Este, we'll just make sure the live stream is up and working. Hunggan. Hunggan, komatsotso, este. Oh yeah, Hunggan. Hunggan, matsotso. All right. Right. Biba, biba, biba. All right. Hafa de hamsutodo sestigi un nuevo episode Fanachu Guay host Mizotalo si Michael Luhan Bavakwa Hunganan. Today we are going to go back. We're going to take a little bit of a trip back in time, but I bet a lot of you have thought about our ancient ancestors. Some of you might have wondered, is Kipua my great-great-great-great-grandfather? Does that mean I have a chance to get some of that land in Hagatnya? Or maybe some of you have thought, is Matapeng my great-great-great-great-grandfather? Well, interestingly enough, there are some families that can claim to be the descendants of Matapeng on this island up until today. And so the ancient times, we refer to it as ancient, even though it was just a few hundred years ago, the time when the Spanish came into this island, the Marianas Islands, when they began their colonization and Christianization of the Chamorro people. We have this time written by Jesuits, by explorers who stopped on the islands. We don't have a lot of images, though. The drawings that we have that come from European observers are not particularly reliable. And so our imagination, the ways that we imagine, the way that we perceive what Chamorros looked like, what the lives of our ancestors have looked like, for a long time, that was dictated by misrepresentations that came from European accounts. And so our guest on Fanachu for today is somebody who, for the past 20 years, as an artist, but also as a filmmaker, has been doing a lot in terms of creating art to guide, art that's to guide our gaze into the past, art that is informed by his own research, art that is informed by his conversations with cultural practitioners, his conversations with scholars, but his work to kind of give us insight into the cultural practices and the lives of our ancient ancestors. And so I'm excited to have with me for this episode of Fanachu, si Raph Unpingco, Hafade Raph, who is currently, he's recording his upcoming album in sort of he's he's where Stevie Nicks recorded, Hungan.
Stuck in the 70s.
Biba. But Hungan, I'm glad to have Raph with me because me and Raph, we go way back. We were both art students at the University of Guam. We've been artists and activists here on this island for a long time. And so I'm excited that he's here for Fanachu to talk about two projects in particular that he's worked on, where I really want to get his account about how they started and how they were formed. And so Sidus Masi Tatlu Raf, Parifinatotmo. And so first off, introduce in Maisa how put for Sangani esti Tautoni Umeega Didinai put Hogo.
Okay, was well, si Raph Unpingco, Tato Sinonia. I'm 48 years old, born in 75. I'm a U.S. Army vet. I have 8 years under my belt. Was National Guard, so I'm a homeboy. Let's see what else. As far as Manmañaina-ta, that's the name of the chief's book. Because they're not all chiefs. I think maybe about 9 of them. I gotta look at it again. It's been a bit, but these are 25 names that Ed Benavente, si defunto, was able to pull out from the conquest of the Marianas over at the Mark Library, which it's available for everybody to take a look at. it's on the top shelf and it's green, green spine. Anyway, so he went ahead and he pulled out these 25 names from the conquest of Spain. It's actually the Spanish Chamorro War, which lasted about 27 and a half years. He put all the names out, and he started separating them according to who was fighting for the Spaniards and who was fighting for the local rights. And then we had to make a couple of decisions. Well, actually, let me back up a bit. He was working at the Corn Building. His office was at the Corn Building, and I just decided to pop in and pay him a visit this one day. I believe I want to say it was in 06. And I went up to say hello, and I noticed he was doodling, and he closed his book really quick, and he put it down on his desk, and we were talking. And I noticed the doodle was there, so I kind of like eased my way around his desk, and I go, "Hey, Afasi, afon jusuga gini," and he was kind of a mala about it, but he goes, "Oh, I katitinasti leblum, leblum na Manmañaina-ta." I go, "Well, what are you talking about?" And he goes, "This is from the Spanish Chamorro War. I'm trying to get all the names out." I go, "Hey, you need an illustrator? Because that sounds like something I really want to do, you know?" He goes, yeah, shoot. So that's how it kind of started. And from there, I was trying to figure out, well, how am I gonna illustrate it? Because they always said we were naked. And and I'm like, I'm not, I got, this has got to be for, I mean, I was thinking this is something that it can be a learning tool. So I already had in my mind, like, I'm gonna make this very much similar to a comic book, because when I was a kid, I loved reading comic books. So that's number one. Number two, he wanted it to be bilingual. He wanted back up. That was the original cover right there on the preface. One more down. There you go. That was going to be the original cover, because that's supposed to symbolize 3 generations of that the war hit. The guy standing up would be the first generation. The guy kneeling down with a gun would be the last generation. So, but just to give you an idea of where my mind was going, that's kind of where it was, because first the whole idea of everyone was naked was the first thing, and then I kind of like start playing with existing objects in our history, like the turtle shell and stuff. But then as time went by, started seeing more practical use for things like the turtle shell and such. Also, how people would actually be dressed back then, because we did have a word for clothing called Maga'håga, So and then again with the with like local artists such as the Valori brothers, where they came out and they started weaving the sadi for everyone, or try and reintroduce the sadi to everyone, and also their version of the tuhong that was I guess documented by the the illustrations from back then. So that kind of stuff, it really wasn't just me. I did talk with a lot of artists and historians and stuff, even just practitioners. They like their concepts of how things went down back then, how things looked back then, and such. I even flew up to Saipan, Tinian, and Rhoda before we even printed the book, just to get a feel for everything. I mean, just how, because over there they have birds. We don't have birds over here, so the way everyone talks over here is very American, but over like in CNMI, your influence, they're influenced by their surroundings, whether they know it or not. I mean, the birds talk while you're talking. That's why we joke about. I used to joke about can tell if there's a Guamanian in Saipan because they stopped to listen to the birds. Because we don't got birds in Guam. So, but with that, I was looking around there, and then I was actually while I was there, I was thinking about the chiefs that were particularly from CNMI and tried to give them a face. They have, I mean, their chiefs are, I think there's a total of 9 from the book. And man, it was interesting just going over there because that's where I first met, or the second time I met Noel Kitigwa, I believe. And that's where he gave me a photocopy of this hair shield, which was found on Magellan's boat, or found in the Marianas, off Magellan's boat. Apparently, it came from another culture that's far away, but it just really does show that we traded that far. And then also like how currency would have worked prior to the all of these factored into the daily lifestyle that I was trying to depict. And I don't know. I'm gonna try and re-illustrate this stuff completely. So it's not gonna look like the way it used to. But all the text, we're gonna have the original text, and I plan to add more information.
Yeah. No, Sidus Masi. No, thank you for sharing that. I mean, Ed Benavente was somebody who who did so much as a political activist, as a teacher of the Chamorro language, and as somebody who helped start the Sagan Kuturan Chamorro, a place where you play a very active role today. And so would you mind telling us, because some people may not be familiar with him, a little bit of his background?
So si Defuntun Eddie Benavente, he's very eloquent speaker. He was Angel Santos' right-hand man, as his pari. During the early days, he even jumped the fence. The first time they jumped the fence, and the second time they jumped the fence. So him and his brother Rumble. Ed's been very active in the community, especially in the creation of Second Katuran Chamorro. He was very strategic as far as like helping us get things going. When things in any movement, there's going to be some downtime, when a down period where you're just kind of not motivated, and he'd always be there to motivate everybody. And and sometimes we were concerned about his health because he did go through a lot physically. He suffered having like 7 tumors in his body, or they actually had to remove a patch of skull from his cranium. So we're always kind of worried about him getting injured, and then when he finally passed, that was that was a big loss for our community, so.
Hungen Sidus Masi. For anyone watching, if you have any questions, put favor, pega and comment, put in the comments. Again, we are live streaming on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook as well. And so getting into some of the great stuff in this Chief's book, and we really want to highlight the wonderful work that Sisaina Ed and then Raph did in this book. Because when we think about the chiefs, what our knowledge of ancient Chamorro chiefs was in the past, it was Kipua, Sagwaha Butotnya. He has a statue in Hagatnya, right? And so, erected by Ricky Berdalio, and then you probably knew about Matapang, and that was kind of the extent. You knew about 1 or 2 chiefs at the most, if you knew about any at all. And so what Ed Benavente's research did is because, by the 90s, Rodrigue Levesque had kind of published his, his history of Micronesia books, and they were very expensive, like $50, $100 or more to get a volume of those pot nine bit din a lep blue nine, those thick green books. But if you could afford them, or if you could go down to Mark and get them, as Raph was saying, they were filled with details that if you just took Guam history, like in the 90s, in the 80s, the 70s, you would never imagine that we knew this much before. Like that we knew, you would have thought that every Chamorro before the year 1521 was named either Kipua or Matapang or Jose. That was it. And then that 50% of the island was Maria, and that's it. You would think that those were the only Chamorro names out there. But through that research, Ed, and then through Raph with his illustrations, they publicized these other names, which now, if you go around, you'll find Kaisa. Hey, I know a few kids out there who are named Kaisa now. Kaisa, of course, a Maga'låhi from the island of Tinian. Agao, amazing story of Agao, the sort of the Maga'låhi who fought off. He may not have been a Maga'låhi, may have just been an Ulitao, but who fought off a squad of Spanish soldiers, with nothing more than a higam. And so you go through and you find all of these names, and then you find Matapang, you find, and that people have used this to name their children. They've used it to name other things. So, for example, the Festpac huts in Hagatnya are named after, even if no one knows this, they are named after these chiefs because of the research that Raph and Ed Benavente did. Oh, see, and wonderful artwork here. What is this scene here supposed to depict?
So that was supposed to be the scene where well, in the book he's referred to as Hula, but in the translation, direct translation, says Yura, Maga'låhi Hurao, attacking the Plaza de España and the church simultaneously. It's a two-pronged attack, and I think Yura at the time was going after the governor with two of his men, and I guess he was taking too long killing him because he was going really slow. I guess he was like is letting him know everyone that he hurt, because it gave enough time for the Filipino guard to come to the governor's rescue. But at that fight was so bloody, and it was so well documented that they were kind of worried that was going to be the end if it wasn't for that one guard. When that guard took out Yura, it kind of like demotivated all the Chamorros, and they just kind of fell back, melted back away from the battle. So.
Ungan. I mean, I often tell people, like, if there's any Chamorros out there who have a lot of money that they're looking to blow on a film project, because Operation Christmas Drop was okay. Yeah, it was okay. I mean, if you wanted something that kind of made you feel like Guam only has 5 beaches, because that's one of the jokes on there, and Guam is just a beautiful island that is almost entirely a U.S. military base. If you think that that's all that Guam's capable of movie-wise, man, you haven't been paying attention. That if you've got a lot of money, then put it into some local filmmakers. Guam's got some great local filmmakers, and one of the great stories, one of the great sort of potential stories out there is, the Chamorro-Spanish Wars. So many great characters, so much tragedy and trauma. Every once in a while, maybe a little bit of romance too, some humor too. but so many interesting characters, and then characters which will like amaze and astound people. Like people get amazed uh when even when I talk to them with the little that we know. So for example, here's one of your illustrations, and from the Chief's book, from Olanok, one of the
Oh,
Chamorro warriors who had gotten a Spanish gun.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He somehow acquired a rifle and some gunpowder and some bullets, and he be a thorn in the side of Spain because he'd be coming down from Gunay, which is the islands north of Saipan, and he'd come down on his canoe, take a pop shot, and split, and then come back and take another pop shot. So he was, he was very proficient with that weapon. He knew the distance that it needed to be effective to its target, and um, yeah, the fact that they mentioned his name. One thing about all these names came from court documents. These guys were all, either tried or put to death, or put to death and then tried after, and or they escaped somehow. Maybe like about seven of them have they don't have an ending, because which is great, but there a majority of them were put down, and this kind of leads me to the one of the major criticisms of the book is like, how come you don't talk about the women? And Ed got a lot of that scrutiny, and he goes, man, I'll show you why. I'm not gonna tell you why. And he showed the passage of one of the two women that were documented during that time, and after they were read, everyone agreed not to put it in this first printing anyway. We should put it in the second printing, and to explain what it was. I believe this Maga'håga in Orodi, the Rodi area, was actually on the side of the Spaniards, and actually ordered all their warriors to kill majority of the guys in the book. So
Yeah.
it would have painted a negative picture on our matriarchal society, and that's not what we're looking at. This is a
Oh yeah.
compendium. Yeah,
Pescador and Tautau. Pescador and Tautau, Edzo.
yeah, yeah,
Yep, a hunter of people. No, yeah. I think you're you're so right, because I've heard that criticism too. And but there is a beautiful essay that Ed does include, talking about sort of the women who are not mentioned, and so on. But when I lecture on this, one of the difficulties really is just the fact that the Chamorro men are used as sort of the antagonist in the story. Sometimes they're used as sort of the faithful Tonto ally, like the Hineti, like the loyal sidekick, right?
yeah,
But the role of the Chamorro woman is really, they're um sometimes they're like the Jezebel a little bit, but more so they're just sort of like they're there to be liberated by the Spanish. That's what
yeah,
they get mentioned for. And so the women that get mentioned are like, thank you for saving us from the evil men.
yeah,
And it's just such a contrast, because it makes you wonder then how trustworthy is this narrative? Because if
yeah,
the Spanish are telling us on the one side that, oh man, a husband dare not tell a woman what's what, or Chamorro women have all this power, but then suddenly all these Chamorro women are like weak and helpless and can't control anything in their lives, and they need the Spanish to save them. That makes you distrust the Spanish narrative. It shows you that the way that they're portraying the women, you can tell that they're using them.
yeah. I mean, we Ed and I really tried our best to number one, keep it family friendly as far as illustrations anyway. Number two, reinterpret what was written, because like you said, everything was very derogatory towards these warriors. And like I said, they were court documents, so it was really a reinterpretation, a Chamorro reinterpretation of what of a Spanish account, that was translated into English. So that it's a very complex thing. And to keep from, I mean, short of lying, we're not trying to lie and pepper it up. We want to tell the truth, and we don't want to add things that aren't true, just like about, like, oh, we don't want to make up any women or make up what they did. We want to be truthful about everything. It's unfortunate that they weren't as documented, as much as, I don't know if I don't know if I want to say it's fully documented as the men. Men weren't, the men were kind of like treated badly, but like you said, it was a hated society back then in the Western world. So, and especially the people that were supposed to read that those accounts were supposed to be like the king and queen to send more troops. So they made it pretty dramatic. If you just reading the English translation, it sounds like you're reading a movie script. It sounds pretty cool, but those were some tragic times. I mean, even just looking at Salvatore's account, where he says we blessed 100 children and 100 children died today, not in the same sentence, of course, but I mean, 100 children today would be, 100 children dying today would be, it'd be worse than a pandemic.
Again, I a day. Yeah, one of the things that I liked about the book that you guys put out is that it, on the one hand, it gives us something that for those of us that want to feel proud, it gives you that ability to feel pride. It talks about sort of, people like all these hero, it basically, if you want heroes, there's these heroes in that story, right? There's these heroes from our past who in these short sections, there's short passages, and like you said, sometimes it's really frustrating.
Yeah.
So for example, like look here, we have like Citzelef or Cheref, as the Spanish wrote his name down. Somebody who was a double agent or a triple agent, betraying the Spanish and giving Chamorros one of their most significant victories, significant documented victories against the Spanish. And so it's great because you get these sorts of, for those that want heroes in a time when so much, you have hundreds of years in which the heroes that are given to us are people like Salvatore, Magellan, colonial heroes, imperial heroes. But then at the same time, it's a complex history. And so it doesn't shy away from the fact that it was a time when Chamorros also fought against Chamorros.
Yeah.
And so Ed also lists the names of those who decided to sign up to support the colonizers.
Yeah, this list.
And so this
is I list in because just wanted to show that and they said you got to show both. At least list them down. That way they can look it up later and figure them out. And the fact that we did that, the fact that we put this little list here together, great, because I've heard from somebody, see Carlos Madrid, that he actually casually looked up Maga'låhi Hurao, and he found that he traveled to the Philippines, which at the time was a center government, and also he traveled to Spain I don't know what came of it, but it's interesting to know that yeah, some Chamorros went as far as Spain at this time. So
Oh yes, Ungan. Hi, thinking about and looking at, yeah, thinking about some of these names here. Some of these names here played a pivotal role in allowing the Spanish to consolidate their power, because the Spanish presence was never significant enough that they could have ever really overwhelmed the Chamorros if the Chamorros entirely wanted to wipe out the Spanish, at least sort of in one go. But Chamorros as a society were never completely united. They were always mixed. The majority of Chamorros were resistant to the colonial presence, but there was always a minority who wanted them, and then slowly over time, whether because of diseases, a sincere belief in the new religion, or a desire to improve their situation, or even just a chance to get vengeance on old enemies. You get the feeling sometimes that some of these families or individuals were using the war as a chance to get back at somebody they at an individual or a clan or a village that they had long had emok, long had beef with. And so, yeah, just as I was saying earlier, like you look at somebody like some Maga'låhi Hurao, who was so essential to the Spanish presence that they even promoted him and gave him a rank, one of the first Chamorros to have a political and a military rank amongst the Spanish, who uh, who even uh, who used his own relatives to spy on behalf of the Spanish so that they could report on what anti-Spanish Chamorros were doing to keep the colonizers safe. And then Hineti is, if you're not familiar with Hineti, of course, Hineti is the one who, as Raph was talking about earlier, in the fight of 1680 in Hula or Yura's uprising in 1684, that was Hineti was the one. And Raph, do you want to talk about that? This
sure,
is also
sure.
this is also from
Yeah,
this is from Hula's uprising, right? This image.
yes, yes. Yeah, he actually defended the Spaniards while the captain was in Saipan fighting the Chamorros there. Um, so I think I want to say it was like 3 days or so. Where he just brought down his whole village of warriors and defended the plaza and the church from the Chamorros that were trying to eradicate the Spaniards until I want to say it was Legazpi. Uh, Captain Legazpi returned from Saipan. He even documented he still had blood on his face, and that apparently scared everybody off because this guy just got through killing a bunch of people in Saipan, and now he's gonna come and kill everyone over here. So yeah, it wasn't about the Chamorros. Chamorro warfare wasn't like Spanish warfare. It's more about preservation. You settle your score. Sometimes the whole village gets involved, but the minute somebody dies, everyone breaks up, and then they try and figure out who did the killing, and who's the family of the murderer, and who's the family of the deceased, and the family of the murderer needs to go to Rhoda, and because this is what happened to Mthopeng, and then the family of the murderer's family is obligated to provide food to to the deceased family until it's forgiven, and that's mainly because you just killed someone that's going to help bring in the Tekken. You just killed someone that was probably a major fisherman in the village and probably supported more than one village with his catch. Like I mean, if you think about, I was like looking at the history of um, the Northwest Field Village, and the village down at the bottom, I believe it's Hurao. The fishermen in Hurao would bring fish up to the villages in up top where the airstrip was, where that military base is now. So I mean, if they killed the guy who was leading that fishing that fishing expedition, they're not going to get that much fish again, so it's going to, so that family is obligated. It's a very weird thing because it's not about total domination when it comes to Chamorros. They just want to settle a disagreement, and sometimes it gets bloody.
Hungen. And we have a few questions that are coming in, but put favor, ang guaha question mo, guafin send mo, pegagi chat, put favor, pegagi halami comments. And so we have a question, half a day, from Eva Uggan Cruz, who says it'll be interesting to see how clans can trace their lineage back to any of these chiefs. And she suggests that this is a good opportunity to connect with Bernard Punsalen's genealogy project.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
And so, Raph, go ahead.
No, some of them, majority of them, you probably won't find something because it's a matter of I guess if their name is passed down, if their name survived the reduction, the reduction was when they pulled everybody from all the islands in the Marianas down to Guam and stuck them on barrios. That was like towards the end of the Spanish Chamorro War, and then when we were decimated by disease, One thing's interesting to find out is the very first name that I took to put on film, or to do a documentary on, was Sanglo. And when we did that and I stuck it on YouTube, it opened up a window, a really big linguistic window, and it kind of freaked me out because I felt like we did something wrong. But I typed in Sanglo and I got 10,000 hits. And I was like, well, why? And it's an Indian name. And so, the way I looked at it is like, this is a glimpse into the past. We did, we have argumentally some things cultural relations we have with Indians, like our Birunat, we chew Birunat, or we did. And, because I don't know, Sanglo, if Sanglo is an Indian sounding name, I don't know. I've asked some Indians and they don't know what I'm talking about, or they just, maybe it's a different dialect, but I guess it means love or something. But it's interesting to see those kinds of things. I kind of want to do more of those warriors and chiefs, even though they're short. It's just because I want to see what the internet would do, how it would interpret what was written down.
Hungen. You never know. I mean, because there might be some connections that. There might be some connections. Eva, to your point, definitely what Raph said, Maga'håga, it's unfortunate because there's this big gap in genealogical possibilities where there's no, like, from the time that the Spanish have these accounts and then to the first census, and then there's no continuous census during the Spanish era, during the Spanish period. So you get every few decades there's a census, and then there's none for very long times, and so it's very hard to make these connections. And so there are very few people who can claim to have a connection to somebody who was alive at the time of colonization by the Spanish. And those who do, it comes from a variety of different sources. So, for example, this is another illustration from Raph. This front comes from the page for Maga'låhi Tolahi, and so who tried to assassinate a Spanish governor. And so one thing that Ed, theorizes is that Tolahi may be connected to the last name Terlahi today. And so some people who are in that family argue that, yeah, sure, yeah, this is a possible connection. And so whether it's something that you could prove with genealogical research is maybe not true, but it might be a rare enough name that you couldn't necessarily rule it out. But the amount of families that I am familiar with who have like a good argument or a potential argument for a connection to a Chamorro who was alive in the late 1600s, it's like less than 10, maybe even less than 5.
Yeah.
that have just because of you have a lot of things working against you. But and even last names, like the way that we think of genealogy, it's tough because in that first census that the Spanish do, last names, they don't work the same way because a lot of Chamorros were within one generation of getting a last name as we think about it. So like you get all these people that have Babauta as their last name and in the census, and they're probably not all related to each other. It was probably just that was their first name, or that was a name in their clan. They were known as Babauta within their clan, and so that ended up being their last name. So that's why it gets a little bit tricky.
Yeah. Even with like for instance the Lujan, we're both Lujan. But I mean, I found out when I was in the army, I found out that there were actually two Lujans. There's a Chamorro Lujan and a Spanish Lujan. I'm the Spanish Lujan, but but I found out that the Chamorro Lujans are mostly from the north. I'm not sure what part, but like a lot of the guys I knew, they said they're the Chamorro ones. So.
Yeah, Biba. Let's switch it up now. Now, remember, if you've got it, Sidus Masa Eva for your question, and then of course, Guam Tees is asking, where can they get the Chief's book now? And I know it's incredibly out of print. Esta Gof Hassan.
Yes.
Gof Hokuk.
Well, yeah. We only printed 500 copies, and we made a whole bunch of posters. The posters are actually available at Guinahan Chamorro at Second Coturn Chamorro, but we don't really advertise it because I have so many other things I'm doing. But as far as reprinting the book, I intend to do that. In fact, I just went to the Philippines to talk with the original printers, and I'm decided to go ahead and maybe stick with them, and and go from there. I do want to add more information. I'm probably gonna change up all the images because I really can't find any of my artwork right now. I moved so many times I can't find my artwork. So.
Sidus Masi. Now, I want to switch gears though, because I want to give us a chance to talk about the assassination of Maga'låhi Hurao. And so, this is you were mentioning the short film because from the Chief's project with Ed Benavente, then I know that you were planning to do a number of films talking about some of the, short films highlighting and bringing to life some of the stories of some of the Maga'låhi, some of the warriors, some of the figures in it. And Sanglo, I know that you did that. And then you and Clynt Ridgell worked on a film, that assassination of Maga'låhi Hurao. Tell us more about that, because that's also like super hard to find nowadays. Super hard to get a copy of that.
Yeah, so okay, well, like I said, I started off by working on the Sanglo film. That was about 4 minutes and 40 seconds long, something like that. And we uploaded that online. I used that to apply for grants. Actually, I was able to land a CAHA grant, 10% of what I asked for, but I still did it, because it wasn't about the money anyway. Um, and So we went ahead and did it. And at the time, I had just gotten through a couple of years of film crash course classes over at PBS and with Alex Munoz and stuff. So it got me motivated to do this project. Um, I was able to work with some of the same guys again and some more. At the time, there were there were artists all over the island doing stuff. And like, for instance, there was a village that was built in Ipao, right over the existing playground, and it looked awesome. So I asked if we could use that. The only problem is we had so limited. We had a very limited amount of actors that were available and were willing to, and also you know this the story was just so big that we just had to try to limit it down to the assassination of Hurao. And and even that, I kind of wanted it to be longer, and you can tell by the length of the film, because as I revisit it now, I could just do that in 15 minutes, not 34, and been easier. I mean, and you still get a lot of the artsy stuff, but when I was doing it, I was running into a bunch of obstacles, and one of the obstacles was uh, people on the team not wanting the project to end, and um, so I had to make sure that it ended, or else it wouldn't be released. But we were able to release it. Unfortunately, it set up on DVD, couldn't make copies. So I'm not gonna get it. It's me all riled up because you kind of want to get things going, and people just keep putting obstacles in front of you, which it really does back up the whole idea of we were all against one another when the Spanish got here. you know
Again, this film, let's actually watch part of this right now. So for those of you who are watching, I put the link to the film Sanglo. If you want to see, it's a great film. It's a great short film, and it shows really kind of the vision that Raph and Clynt Ridgell, and Biba to Clynt Ridgell, who went on to later become a senator for 2 terms in the legislature. And so the sort of the vision that they had in terms of bringing to life, the lives of our ancestors on film. But you uploaded about 9 minutes of the Hurao film onto YouTube. And so let's check that out. Let's check that out.
Oh,
And unfortunately, I don't think I'm in the 9 minutes that we're going to watch. Thank goodness my part is in the 9 minutes that we're going to watch. You don't want to.
pretty good taste, by the way.
Yeah. No, yeah. Wait, yeah. Hold on. Before we watch this. So, as a light complected, half Chamorro, half white kid who was coming back from getting my PhD, Raph and Clynt invite me to work on this project about our ancient ancestors, right? And I'm like, what? Yeah, hell yeah. So I gotta loincloth, right? I gotta bulk up, I gotta get in shape. And Raph's like, no, 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 you don't gotta do any of that. And I'm like, why? Why not? And they're like, we want you to play an evil priest. And I was like, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah, because you can speak Chamorro, and the priests at that time could speak Chamorro, so we want you to like speak Chamorro badly, and you got a beard. And I was like, okay, fine. All right, fine. And so
that was awesome too, man.
It was
We had Ronick Fozzy was like was playing Agao, and he like just the fight. I mean, we were really limited on actors and props and all that, but we made it work.
You were filming in the dark at the end there too.
Yeah. It's like I think I remember I bought like a bunch of canvas drop cloths, and I put it, I draped it over a pala frame, just so it felt like we're inside a Spanish tent. So that that worked out.
It worked. It was good. It was good. That's why I always want I want copies of that so I can show people. They don't believe me. I'm like, I played an evil Spanish priest that betrayed Maga'låhi Hurao. Guahu pumuno si Hurao. Guahu. But anyways, okay, okay. Go ahead. What, Hafa?
It's funny because it was so low budget. It was like a PBS 80s low budget. It's like we couldn't even figure out how to like make the explosion on his chest for when he got shot. So we just kind of squirted him with red blood.
Oh yeah, oh man, who has to know? I remember that. Okay, here, let's okay, here, let's check it out.
Oh, it's crossing paths, yeah. And note to all the future filmmakers out there, you got to get permission for this map.
Esta manyauna palo naman tautauta dyan siya. Anakalawad kontra siya.
Alat na puti unta sitsat sa langit bako puso talong sa upang tulalasin.
Tahu tahu gilagu. Tahu gilagu tata. Hafa hajau. Munga celo lai binhano di munga mi celo munga. Binhano binafut matai mami. Binhano bin afut di matai mami. Tata. Kalau ma afut matai niya. Sotelo. Munga celo. Hana. Sana mo.
I still remember the day we shot this. It was this very powerful day. Everybody was psyched out, and they even the art the axe that he's looking at right there. That is the artwork from si Manmañaina-ta, Hurao. And that's Guelu, by the way. If you don't know Guelu. He's actually from Luta. Our Spaniard in that segment is from Saipan. His name is Steve Van Winkle. He's one of my favorite dudes up there. Shout out to Steve. He was actually in the beginning. He was kind of like humming a song that his grandmother would sing. That while they would, they'd be walking through the jungle, somewhere, and she'd be singing that song as a Spanish song, but he couldn't remember every detail of the song. He just remembered like the chorus, and so I let him go out and go at it. And one thing is great is doing this type of doing history filmmaking is awesome because it is an opportunity for Romanians to connect with our Chalus in the Sina Maya, because they, let's be real, they're still speaking, or they can still speak Chamorro or a version of it, and that's very important, especially if we want to make bilingual productions, or we want to support the language. One of the reasons why I wanted to film is, number one, we don't have it on film. Number two, it's multimedia, and multimedia is the way to go if you want to preserve anything, in my opinion, anyway. Both of us grew up on TV. Majority of us have all grown up on TV. Most third world countries learn their English from watching movies, so if we were to do this, make it in the audio and Chamorro and give it some sub, we'll pick up tomorrow, you know. But it's a matter of putting a lot of it out there and of nice variety, and you know, from cartoons to dramas. I acted in a couple myself, but I have yet to see the finished product of some of them. So
Again, no, I wish we should have you know, once we get like a digital version of this film, it would be great to just have you know, one of those watching parties, you and Clynt come in and just, you know, do one of those things where we just watch it, pause, and you two can kind of just talk about stuff. Because for some of these things, you know, watching it again now, it's like, you know, just some great stuff. You know, some great stuff. That's the thing is this really shows the potential that you know, that a lot of us have known for a while for just do-it-yourself filmmaking, small-scale filmmaking. And it doesn't need, you don't need $100 million, but you do need some level of community, you know, or a little bit of government or, you know, commercial support, but you just need some, and then you can make great things. And so, I mean, you know, what you guys did in terms of this film, you know, with very little.
Yeah, we didn't even. Oh man, I think I was just able to feed the cast. That's it. I couldn't pay anybody, and I was mamalo about that. But you know, I think also payment in itself is us finishing this project. You know, and you know, everybody seeing what their blood, sweat, and tears was put into, because they, you know, explaining this to everyone. I had to explain it to everyone individually, and then also as a group, you know, the importance of this project, what we're trying to do. You know, it's almost like, gosh, it's almost like I was in the military again. You know, you have to cover all your angles, make sure everybody's fed, make sure there's safety, blah blah. You know, the sun is in the right place because we're using nature, and how much time do we have, and you know, and then also, I mean, there's some things we can't change, like, you know, the foliage. The foliage, of course, is more modern. You got a lot of Tongan out there, and they're not even the native Tongan. So, but you know, that I mean, that's okay, and I mean, but we were able to use like some cool shots, like this right here where he's slinging. When we did that initially, I was recording that with a old camera, and he was. That was a time when we found out that sling stones could whistle. You know, just by the shape that they had. You know, it sparked us wondering, hey, did you hear that? You know what? So maybe they, you know, it made us start thinking maybe they threw them at a specific target at nighttime, just to let passersby know that they're crossing over someone's territory, you know, and then they retrieve their sling stones the next day. But I mean, there's so many. I don't know. Doing this film opened up a lot of questions as far as like history and like, why would they do this? Why would they do that? And the such. And also, like, it kind of got like some of the guys wanting to challenge themselves, like the guys that dressed up as warriors, and they're walking up, they're climbing the cliff, they're all climbing barefoot, and that cliff is pretty bad. You know, it'll mess your feet up. You know, but they're willing to endure it. You know, and but it was pretty intense. You know, especially the heat and everything. So.
Oh yeah, no, Hungan, I remember going on some hikes with Puget Jackson after this, and he would always insist on going barefoot. And I would always be like, "Hoy, ay, Hungan magahid na Maga'låhi na magay na sa muro house inyo. Hungan atin na no ikodus na giadeng mo Hungan." Tisinya zanesti adeng ho. Nope, not with mine. But Idzomo Hungan. But Hungan, you know what? I would love to because we're just about out of time. I would love to have let's plan for the future, especially after FestPack, because I know you're heading off to FestPack.
Yes, yes. Not under visual or film this time. This time under culinary. So yeah, it's totally different category, which I'm fine with. But I'm more going to be documenting the hot news side of it all. So
Hungan, and I also want to share this for those of you who want to follow more of Raph Zanimangatsongnya. Check out Red Skull Media. Raph Famatkilui Patsotmo. Famatkilui Patsotmo, which if you don't understand tomorrow, Famatkilui Patsotmo means you have a beautiful face. I love the way I love the way you talk. There's such a it's just your voice is wonderful. That's what Famatkilu Patsotmo I believe it means. I can't be sure though, because the accent, the orthography is a little bit tricky. I'm not tisigurudzu, but I believe from the way that I've heard it said to me, Famatkilu Patsotmo, that's what it means. But check out Red Skull Media. The episodes have been pretty cool because some of them are video games, some of them are like culture based. You had Carlos Madrid on, comic book stuff, loving it. And so who do you do your podcast with?
I do it with, well, Red Skull Media is run by Sandro Macroyo. He's currently going through some a kidney transplant in the Philippines right now. So if you check out the podcast, it says on the bottom there's a website for if you'd like to make a donation to him. It's not to the podcast; it's as far as his surgery. But yeah, he's the one that's been putting this podcast together. You want to do a 671 show, and we found out there was a class that was doing video productions called and they called it the 671 show. So you might come across a bunch of howlies doing a class project. So, but that's not us. It's the other one. It's the under Red Skull Media.
Biba. But yeah, after later this year, we should I'll reach out to Clynt, and then if we can get a digital copy of the Hurao film, we should do an episode where we just have you two and we just watch it and we can pause it, because I would love to have the two of you talk about just what it was like filming under those conditions. And then even we got some feedback where people were loving the tools that they were using in those scenes. Like you mentioned, those were Joe Guerrero that made some of the weapons, right, that they were using.
Yeah. Prior to that, I was also working with Albert Nabaran. He also is defunct. He passed away. He would make a bunch of marlin tip spears and ads, and I was able to get his artwork and put it in the show, the production. So
Oh man, that'll be fun. We've already got some people in the comments that are saying that they would love an episode like that. So Hungan, we'll plan for something like that in the future. So do you want to kind of share some iutumanay na hinasomo paresti, your closing thoughts while we end this episode?
Well, I encourage everybody to read more of the direct translations, and also read what everyone's put out over the years that reference the translations. And if you know how to, if you're trying to figure out a degree to go into, get into linguistics and learn Old Spanish and help us translate all this stuff, because we really only have like 5%, 15% translated into English. Of that, 5% of that is Conquest of Marianas. We need more, and after speaking with Carlos Madrid, if you don't want to learn Old Spanish, learn Finohaza, because the documents from the 1800s are in Finohaza, So, you just gotta you gotta try it. The stuff out there that still needs to be translated. If you want to get into filmmaking, I encourage you to. If you're down to do bilingual filmmaking where you're promoting the Chamorro language, I'll back you up. It's very, very important. I think it's important for the community to preserve our language. I know I'm speaking English right now, but I want to make sure everybody understands the words coming out of my mouth. So I'm going to just talk to you in English because just to make sure you know what I'm saying. Okay. So no disrespect, but learn your language, learn your history, get into filmmaking, share what you found out, get to know other historians, visit our museum, visit our mini museum at SKC. Everyone can share with you a lot of information. If you'd like to get into history filmmaking, you really got to know what you're doing. So otherwise you're gonna. It's not that we're gonna be criticizing you, but in a bad way. But just know that even me, I know people are gonna criticize me. People criticize my artwork all the time, especially the Chief book. I've heard older generations say, "How come these guys are so buff? Chamorros weren't that buff." I've had ladies tell me, "Where are all your fat guys?" There were fat guys in Chamorro history. I go, if you want that, you can put that in yourself. Do it. But I'm doing it my way, and from my research is what's coming out. So if you don't like my warriors being buff, and you don't like my warriors not being fat, then go draw it yourself. So, but that's it.
Biba Zeus Mase. No, si Zeus Mase. Kung ganza para hamzu todos ni umega por kung kestigi i Fanachu este na episode Fanachu. Adios.